Whether it's cars, comics, video games, or violins, there's a little geek in all of us. It's time to give your geek a voice. It's time for Geek Therapy. Here's your host, Johnny Hamburger.
Welcome to Geek Therapy Radio. I'm your mental curator, as always, Johnny Hamburger. Thank you for tuning in. Like I said, your mental curator this evening, this afternoon, this morning, whenever you're listening to the show. If you're listening to the broadcast at 12:06 a.m. Sunday right here on KPRC 950, thank you, because that's when the voices sound the sexiest on the radio. But if you're listening to the podcast in the morning or when you're taking a shower or whatever, bring me in the shower with you. You know I'm not opposed to that. I have the specialist. He is I guess you can call him a specialist. Anyways, the specialist of guests, Colin. May I use your last name, Colin? Is that okay? Or no?
You can just call me Colin.
I got Colin from This Does Not Compute on YouTube. I'm saying that right. This Does Not Compute, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, This Does Not Compute on YouTube. He also has a podcast. Do you still call it This Does Not Commute?
When I'm in the car, yeah. I haven't done that in a while.
That's the first time I saw that, I was like, because the first time I saw the title, I was like, This Does Not Compute podcast, and then I realized that doesn't say compute. That's cleverly labeled commute, and he's in the car.
And you would be surprised, or perhaps not surprised, at how frequently I get comments from people saying that I spelled compute wrong on those episodes, not understanding.
You put two M's in there. It's supposed to be
what it means.
Yeah. So let me just tell you how I kind of stumbled on Colin's YouTube. It was probably suggested, actually, because of all the technical things I follow on YouTube. And I think what it was is, I'll hold it up to my camera. Colin, I know you can't see this currently, but you know what I'm talking about. I modded a little bit. I modded my Game Boy Color. So I was going on YouTube looking at Game Boy mods. And of course, Colin comes up. This Does Not Compute comes up because, Colin, you do some wizardry with your Game Boys. How did you get into that?
Oh, I sure try. I've always been into modding in one way or another. Mm-hmm. It kind of all started back in, I don't know, maybe high school, early college. One of the first memories I have was helping a friend get a mod chip installed in a PS2.
Oh, yeah? For
and
playing?
I made an absolute mess of it. I am not ashamed to admit that I was a bit too big for my britches on that one.
Right.
But, life kind of takes over, and I didn't really keep up with the modding scene so much for a while. But then, kind of 2012, 2013, that time frame, I realized that YouTube is good for more than just videos of people like falling down or getting kicked in the nuts and stuff like that. That there's actual like real good educational, entertaining content out there.
Right. It's still great for the other stuff, but like if you actually, don't know how to change the oil in your car, YouTube is amazing for that stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, fail videos are a huge segment on there still, but
oh yeah.
I kind of started falling back into the whole retro gaming thing. I guess I had my own little bit of nostalgia for wanting to play some of those games again, so I dug my own consoles out of storage. Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking about, what about all those consoles that I never got to play when I was a kid?
Yeah.
One of the stories that I've told was I originally wanted a Super NES. Mm-hmm. And long story short, my parents got me a Sega Genesis instead.
It's all Nintendo. See, because to parents, it's all Nintendo. You could be playing Sega and your mom says, turn off the Nintendo. And you're like, Mom, it's a Sega.
Right. Well, I think that their thought was a friend of mine was going to get the Genesis. And so they figure, well, if we both had a Genesis, then it'd be easy for us to both play the same games. And it's like, no, that's kind of not how this works. He gets the Genesis, I get the Super NES.
So you both can kind of switch and go to each other's house.
So we can play different games. Like, it doesn't do us any good if we both all get copies of the same games.
Right.
But, 2012, 2013, it's like, I've got a little bit of money now. I'm an adult. I can spend money on whatever I want. And I start looking into, what are the prices on some of these used consoles? And at that time, they were pretty cheap.
Yeah.
You could pick up a good condition Super NES for like $30.
Right.
Good luck doing that today.
Nope.
But, back then it's like, screw it. I'm going to start collecting some of these consoles that I never had.
Yeah.
And watching some of the YouTube videos about, restoring some of them. They weren't always in the best shape, or modding some of them to do stuff they couldn't do it before.
Out of region.
Yeah, what I had found was a lot of the videos were really, really good in terms of technical information or explaining what you needed to do, but the overall quality of the video just wasn't quite there.
Right.
Right? Like, it was super shaky cam. They shot it at midnight with no lights on.
Yep.
They didn't really visually show you what you needed to see. They just kind of waved the camera around, did a quick jump cut about, hey, I just did this already and here's what I did. Well, show me you actually doing it.
Right.
And I just kind of figured, what the heck? It's free. I'll try doing one of these. I'll try putting a couple episodes together. So the first big video I ever did was swapping out the screen on an original Game Boy Advance.
Yep.
With a backlit one.
Yeah. The 101. Did you... Now,
Yep.
I need to ask because... Well, I'm just going to ask. Just be ready.
All right.
The 101 screen, did you get that from a broken 101? Or did you destroy a working...
No. I will say this over and over again. I have never scavenged parts from rare consoles, and I will not do that.
Good on you.
I have purchased 2 101 screens for different projects. Both of them were purchased as new old stock.
Right. Good.
The first one from that original GBA video was, I think, some kind of reproduction unit or maybe a new old stock. In 2014 or so, you could find replacement 101 screens. And I don't know if they were necessarily like legit, from back when Nintendo was making 101s and somebody just found a huge box of them in a warehouse or what.
Right.
But you could find them. And they were like $50-$60 for the part. There was the one that I bought for that particular mod was just some guy in China who had a bunch of them. And I had read on forums, about doing that mod. Just email this guy. And it sounds like super sketchy, right?
Man.
It's like, hey, just email this guy with a yahoo.com address.
Yeah.
And tell him you want to buy one, and he'll tell you how much to PayPal him.
I was going to say, PayPal a random Chinese guy.
Right.
Amount of dollars.
But you know what? To his credit, and I wish I could remember the guy's name, but...
Bobby?
He totally came through. Yeah, I'm sure it was something like that. Actually, it might have been Johnny. I don't know. But he...
Right. Might have been me.
Yeah. It was you after all. But, to his credit, he shipped out what I ordered. In a timely manner, no complaints.
Timely from China?
Actually, pretty quick. I think it only took maybe a week. I think he actually spent a couple of bucks on shipping and not like the whole, where it takes 3 years to get to you kind of deal.
That's there have been some purchases I've made from China where the shipping is like $1.26 from China. And it's like, how is that even possible?
Oh, I've literally bought stuff from China.
Like big things.
Where it was, even if it was a little thing, where the entire purchase was $3 on eBay.
You're right, and you're like, how are they making money on this?
Free shipping.
Yeah.
How? Yeah, exactly. How are they doing that? I have no idea.
Exactly. Right. Order a little, I call it an ambigulator for the headphones to go from the 1/4 inch to 1/8 jack. Yep. And the ambigulator is like, I needed one of those for 50 cents, free shipping from China. It's like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Somebody's not eating tonight because that ambigulator, like the shipping alone, it's going to cost him like $3 to get it here. And I bought it for 50 cents free shipping.
And what's really crazy is you think about if you ever needed to send something in the opposite direction, minimum like $25.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Okay, this is on subject. And you'll appreciate this. A while back, maybe couple years ago, it was probably one of the most exciting purchases I ever made on eBay. And it goes back to what you were saying as we buy these retro systems for retro gaming because it's all these things we wanted as a kid but couldn't have.
Right.
Or couldn't afford or whatever. So I I always heard rumors back in the day of a Game Boy with a backlight, and it's called the Game Boy Light.
Yep.
And, you know, as an adult, I remembered that. It's like, oh, wait. I saw it. I was like, it's a real thing. Kind of like when back in the day, kids used to say, yeah, my friend had a hoverboard, but they had to take it away because it was illegal or something like that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So the Game Boy...
I remember that.
So the Game Boy Light to me was kind of like the fabled hoverboard. So I found a Game Boy Light on eBay in pretty good shape with the matching battery cover that it came with. The battery cover, that's a big deal to all you retro gamers out there thinking about, you know, your struggles buying vintage Game Boys and stuff. If it comes with a battery cover, that's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah,
So,
don't lose those.
yeah. You can 3D print them, but who wants to do that? Anyways, I found a Game Boy Light for, I think it was $90 in Japan with its battery, with the original battery cover, and it had a few little scuffs on it. And the screen was all right. I mean the screen cover, the plastic cover,
Right.
which I had since replaced with glass, because I'm sure Colin will tell you the same thing, listeners. If you want to buy an old Game Boy, get a glass screen cover. It makes all the difference in the world.
It's amazing what we've got available to us now in terms of parts for all this stuff. And it's stuff that I don't think could otherwise have existed, 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
Or at least not been able to be produced at the relatively cheap prices we can get it now. I mean, I remember, hearing about people doing backlight mods.
Yeah.
On various things, even in the late 90s. The first one that I remember reading about was actually putting a backlight on like your graphing calculator.
TI-83.
And this was on your TI-83 or whatever. Like in 97 or 98. I mean, people were doing that, but
sorcery.
It didn't, you'd have to find all the parts yourself. There was no go to a website, buy a part for $10 and slap it in. It was, you need to find the right kind of plastic for the backlight. You need to find the right kind of LEDs. You need to carve out all this space. You have to build this little circuit. You've got to do all this stuff.
And
you were completely on your own. Right. With nothing other than a guide to help you. Nowadays, it's like you can buy really high quality replacement housings. You can buy all of these mod parts, replacement batteries and whole displays and buttons and just everything. And it's all pretty reasonably priced.
Right. And the last thing I'll say for this segment before we go into the next segment is, so what you're saying, back in the day, all these parts weren't so available. Back in the day, you could... 20 years ago, you could go into a magical place called Radio Shack and find 99% of what you needed probably to do these mods, because they had the capacitors, they had resistors, they had potentiometers, they had all that stuff at Radio Shack. Which, I mean, it's easier to get stuff now on eBay. You can just, people make these kits, these pre-made kits to do these backlight mods. But back in the day, if you found some wizard in your city who could find these parts at Radio Shack. I miss Radio Shack. How many times?
In some ways I do, and in some ways I don't. Radio Shack always felt kind of like a pit. You know what I mean? Like I don't think I've ever been in a store that seemed like it was well kept or clean or organized.
Yeah.
And I always hated, like, you'd buy like a pack of batteries or something really stupid.
Expensive.
And it'd be like, you have to sign your life away, give me your name and address and all that garbage.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. I mean, yeah, there are some parts of Radio Shack that I miss, like the components.
Yeah.
There's all the parts, and it wasn't just electrical components. I mean, they had kits for like building your own speakers and stuff. It was
right.
It was really cool, but at the same time, and the RC cars. Let's not forget about the RC cars.
Yes.
I would always go in there and just stare at the RC cars because I wanted all of them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they eventually just kind of turned into like the cell phone store.
Right. Yeah. Verizon or whatever
just
it was.
rebranded other crap. And it's just, I don't know, man.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we'll end this segment here, but Colin, will you join me for at least another segment? Is that cool?
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. We'll be right back with more Geek Therapy Radio. By the way, Geek Therapy Radio on YouTube. Go subscribe. Geek Therapy Radio on Instagram. Geek Therapy Radio on Facebook. all that good stuff. Colin, do a plug real quick in case somebody changes the channel after this.
Yeah, I'm just at youtube.com/thisdoesnotcompute.
You don't got an Instagram or anything?
Yeah, it's all at thisdoesnotcomp, Instagram and Twitter.
Easy breezy. All right, well, with that, we'll be right back. Colin is going to join us again for at least another segment of Geek Therapy Radio, so do not change that dial. Stick around. We will be right